One of the most powerful private estates in Britain now belongs to Prince William, and Camilla has lost her sleep over this. For years, she moved through that estate like it was hers. She placed her sister on the payroll. She invited her family to come in whenever they pleased. Then William inherited it and did something no one saw coming.
It's very important, and I take duty very seriously. I take my responsibilities very seriously.
He kicked out every one of Camilla's family members. When Camilla learned this, she turned red. She marched straight to the king and asked him to cancel William's decision. What Charles did next left the royal family speechless. The estate that funded the betrayal. On September 8, 2022, Queen Elizabeth II took her last breath at Balmoral Castle in Scotland. In that same moment, a chain of events was set in motion that would change everything. Charles automatically became king, and the moment Charles became king, he could no longer hold his previous title as Duke of Cornwall. By law, the Duchy of Cornwall passes directly to the next heir to the throne, which was William. It transferred to him automatically. William went to bed that night as a prince and woke up controlling a $1.2 billion empire, 135,000 acres of land across England and Wales, historic farms, coastal properties, financial investments that had been building for nearly 700 years, all of it his. Most people heard that and moved on. A prince inherited an estate, fine. But here is what nobody stopped to ask. Where did that estate come from? What was it really used for? And what does it mean that the man who controlled it before William was King Charles? Because that estate did not just make Charles wealthy, it funded his double life. When Charles married Diana in 1981, one of the very first things he did was quietly cut his voluntary tax contribution from the duchy from 50% down to 25%. He halved what he was voluntarily paying back. That one quiet decision freed up millions more in personal income going directly into his pocket. Diana believed she was building a life with him. She had no idea that the estate she thought was securing their family's future was being used to finance a secret life she knew nothing about. By 1986, Charles had fully resumed his affair with Camilla. The duchy was funding both worlds at the same time. Diana's household on one side, the affair on the other. And then there is Highgrove. Charles bought Highgrove House in Gloucestershire in 1980 by selling 3 properties from his own estate to fund it. He chose that house. He paid for it himself. And he did it the year before he even married Diana, while his feelings for Camilla were already very much alive. Then Diana moved in. She decorated it. She made it a home. She raised William and Harry inside those walls. She spent years in that house genuinely believing she was building a family with the man she had married. She had no idea what was happening behind her back. Because when Diana was away, Charles sneaked Camilla into the same house, the same rooms Diana had decorated with her own hands. William grew up in that house. He knows exactly what it was used for. And here is what makes this almost impossible to process. William now owns Highgrove. It is his property as Duke of Cornwall. Charles, the King of England, pays his own son £700,000 every single year in rent just to keep living there. The man who used that house and that estate to fund the betrayal of Diana, the mother of his children, now sends a check to Diana's son every year to stay in it. But Highgrove and the tax cut were only part of what William found when he started looking closely at the duchy's financial record. Because buried inside those accounts was a name. And the story attached to that name is far darker than anyone had reported. The woman on the payroll and what she actually did. That name is Annabelle Elliot, Camilla's younger sister. She has been on the duchy payroll for 20 years, collecting over £1.5 million in payments. And once you understand who Annabelle Elliot really is and what she actually did, that money takes on a meaning that is very difficult to explain away. To understand it properly, you have to go back to December 1992, when British Prime Minister John Major stood up in the House of Commons and announced to the entire world that the Prince and Princess of Wales were formally separating. Diana's marriage was declared dead in public. While Diana was somewhere processing the most humiliating moment of her life, a woman was parked outside Camilla's home with a car engine running. She was there to drive Camilla away from the press that had surrounded the street, away from the cameras, away from the chaos. That woman was Annabelle Elliot, Camilla's younger sister. She drove the getaway car on the day Diana's marriage was killed in Parliament. But that moment was not where Annabelle's involvement began. It was just the most visible part of it. For years before that day, Annabelle and her husband had quietly opened their country home as the regular meeting place for Charles and Camilla. Weekend after weekend, the future king would arrive at Annabelle's house and Camilla would be there waiting. Annabelle knew exactly what was happening under her roof. She made it possible. And privately, away from cameras and staff, Camilla and Annabelle had a ritual that shows exactly how little they thought of Diana. Diana was 5 feet 10 inches tall. Charles was 5 feet 9. She was taller than her husband. Diana was painfully aware of it. In every event they attended together, she physically altered her posture. She bent herself downward so that she would not appear to tower over the man she had married. She shrank herself in front of the entire world every single day just to protect his ego. Camilla and Annabelle thought it was hilarious. They mocked the way Diana twisted and bent herself in public for a man who was already spending his weekends at Annabelle's house with someone else. But the cruelty went much deeper than that. The week after Charles and Diana got engaged, Charles put his hand on Diana's waist and said to her casually, as though it meant nothing, "Oh, a bit chubby here, aren't we?" Diana was 19 years old. She said in her own words, recorded on tape, that comment, combined with what she was discovering about Charles and Camilla, triggered a decade of bulimia, a brutal, consuming eating disorder that began the week her engagement was announced and took 10 years to fight through. One comment from the man she was about to marry broke something deep inside her. Camilla and Annabelle knew about Diana's disorder. Everyone in that circle knew. As the years passed, the tabloids tracked Diana's body like a sport. When the illness was hollowing her out, they called her skeletal. When she was fighting her way back and her weight returned, they called her pudgy. Every change in her body was printed, photographed, and sold to millions of readers. Diana's private suffering became public entertainment. Camilla and Annabelle would buy those newspapers. They would read those headlines out loud to each other. They laughed. Charles was sometimes sitting in the same room when this happened. He did not tell them to stop. He did not get up and leave. Sources say he laughed along with them. Then in 1989, everything broke open at Annabelle's 40th birthday party at Lady Annabelle Goldsmith's home in London. Diana arrived unexpectedly. She walked in, composed herself, shook hands. But Charles and Camilla were nowhere in the main rooms. Diana noticed. She started looking. Staff physically tried to stop her going downstairs. She pushed past them and went anyway. She found Charles and Camilla sitting together alone in the basement, tucked away from the party. Diana sat Camilla down. She told her straight that she knew exactly what was going on between them. Camilla did not flinch. She did not apologize. She looked at Diana and said, "You've got everything you ever wanted. You've got all the men in the world falling in love with you, and you've got 2 beautiful children. What more do you want?" Diana answered her, "I want my husband." Charles said nothing, not one word. He sat there and let it happen. Diana sobbed the entire journey home. Her protection officer was in the car with her and Charles the whole way back. He said afterwards that Charles and Diana did not say a single word to each other for the entire drive. Diana wept. Charles stared ahead, and the affair continued. 16 years later, Charles and Camilla married, and almost immediately Annabelle Elliot was placed on the Duchy of Cornwall payroll. Over the next 20 years, the Duchy paid her £1.5 million for interior design work across royal properties. No outside designers were ever considered. The question that exploded publicly was brutal. Was this money for interior design, or was it 20 years of financial reward for everything Annabelle had done? For hosting the affair, for driving the getaway car, for laughing at those newspaper headlines. Nobody could prove it either way, but everyone could see what it looked like. Then William inherited the duchy. He went through the accounts. He saw the payments. He saw the name. He saw everything attached to it. What he did next shocked everyone. William immediately cut Annabelle Elliot from the payroll completely. No warning, no transition period. He simply ended it. When Camilla found out, she completely fell apart. The calm, controlled face she had shown the world for decades came off entirely. According to reports, she called William a vengeful boy, just like his mother. 5 words. And in those 5 words, she exposed everything she had ever felt. She had never seen Diana as a victim. She had always seen her as a problem. Dramatic, difficult, too much, and now Diana's son was the same kind of problem. Camilla went straight to Charles. She wanted the king to call his son, reverse the decision, and remind William who was still in charge. Charles told her he could not do anything. William controls the duchy now. The decision stands. For the first time in 4 decades, Camilla had nowhere to go and no one who could fix it. But what she did not yet fully understand was that Charles was not just stepping back from a payroll dispute. He was already trying to negotiate with William about something far bigger, something that revealed just how frightened he was about what was coming for his wife. What William really knows and what he is preparing to do. Charles went to William privately, and what he offered him was shocking. Sources report that Charles proposed a deal to his son: agree to protect Camilla after I die, guarantee her security and her access to the royal estates, and I will support cutting Harry off permanently. A dying king sat down with his son and put his other son on the table as the price. William said nothing. He did not agree. That silence should terrify Camilla more than any argument ever could, because William is not a person who acts out of blind rage. He makes decisions, quiet ones, permanent ones. He removed Annabelle from the payroll without a single confrontation. He walked away from the Charles deal without a fight. He simply said nothing and kept moving. Sources who have spoken about William's feelings toward Camilla are not gentle about it. They say the resentment has never left him. He watched his mother suffer through that marriage. He knows what the affair cost Diana in ways that never made the newspapers. He has been diplomatic about it because he is strategic, not because he has forgiven anything. And there is a story that almost never gets reported that reveals just how unhealed this wound really is. After Diana died, William eventually met Camilla's children, Tom Parker Bowles and Laura Lopes, as his new step-siblings. With Tom, he found a workable, civil relationship. It was never warm, but it functioned. With Laura, it was a different story completely. Royal author Katie Nicholl documented the reality of what happened when William and Laura were put in the same space. They had violent, explosive fights, real ones. William would blame Camilla directly and without apology for everything his mother had been put through. Laura would erupt defending her mother. William never forgot about these fights. He never forgot that Camilla broke his family. Meanwhile, Camilla has been making moves that show exactly how frightened she is. She sold Ray Mill House, the private property in Wiltshire that she had owned personally since before she ever married Charles. It was her private retreat, her garden, the one space she had that existed completely outside the royal world. She called gardening the best therapy in the world, and then she sold it. She has no independent property left now. Every single roof over her head belongs to the royal institution. Right now, that institution is protected by Charles. The moment Charles is gone, it belongs to William. Sources say Camilla is frantically working to secure written guarantees of access to royal properties with full staff before Charles dies. She is trying to lock things in while she still has a king in her corner. But there is one thing that no agreement, no negotiation, and no dying king's private request can change. When Charles dies, 2 of the most significant private estates in the British royal world transfer directly and personally to William. And what Camilla's life looks like after that moment is entirely his decision to make. When William becomes king, what Camilla loses. In Christmas of 2024, something happened at Sandringham House in Norfolk that nobody missed the meaning of. Camilla arranged for her son Tom Parker Bowles and her daughter Laura Lopes to spend the holiday there for the very first time. Camilla told Tom she had not spent the holiday with him in years, and she wanted him there. Her children sat at the table, Charles at the head of it. The house was warm and full, and someone very important was missing: William. Reports surfaced almost immediately that William would not attend if Tom Parker Bowles was going to be there. He simply did not show up to a house that, under every law of royal inheritance, is already his future property. He holds no official deed yet, but he will, and he knows it. So he stayed away and let Camilla have her Christmas in a house that is running out of time as hers. That patience is the most unsettling thing about William's position in all of this. He is not acting from anger. He is not making emotional decisions. Every single move he has made has been cold, deliberate, and impossible to undo. He ended Annabelle's payments without a word. He walked away from his father's deal without an argument. He skipped Christmas without a confrontation. Just quiet, permanent decisions made by a man who knows that time is on his side. Because here is the reality that no amount of Camilla's planning can get around. Sandringham and Balmoral are not government property. They are not owned by the Crown in any official sense. They are personal, private property that belongs to the reigning monarch and passes privately to the next one. When Charles dies, both estates transfer directly to William. Camilla has no legal claim to either of them. Her children have none. Her sister has none. Nobody in Camilla's family has a single legal right to either property. The day William is king, Camilla's access to Sandringham and Balmoral is completely dependent on whether William chooses to let her in. She will not have a right. She will have to ask, and William will decide. The woman who hosted the affair in her sister's house, who bought newspapers to laugh at Diana's suffering, who called William a vengeful boy when he ended her sister's paycheck, who went to Charles and came back empty-handed, will one day have to ask Diana's son for permission to walk through the front door of a house she currently treats as her own. Sandringham will pass to William, then to his son George. Diana's grandchildren will own that estate. They will grow up in those rooms. They will spend their Christmases there. Camilla's family will own nothing and have access to nothing unless William personally decides otherwise. And from everything we have seen so far, William will outrightly reject Camilla.